Buhner grounds one to third. A long throw is in time. And the Cleveland Indians, after a 41-year wait, are in the World Series.
And this should do it. Morning. The Orioles have won the series.
A slow roller, but Martinez doesn't run well. Jeter up with it. Starts spreading the news. New York, New York.
Trying to end it in 5 games. Cameron into right field. Spencer. Yankees for the 4th year in a row have a date for the Fall Classic.
Standing between them is Julio Rodriguez.
And Rodriguez lifts it in the center, right at Dubon, comes in a couple of steps, makes the catch, and that is the ball game. The Houston Astros are headed back to the ALCS as they sweep the Mariners in the division series, winning a thriller 1-0 in 18 innings.
The Mariners, once again, cannot get past the Houston Astros.
The Seattle Mariners are the only MLB team to never make a World Series. Now, with that being said, this franchise has had a lot of good rosters. I mean, a lot of good players on their teams, and they still have never gotten to a World Series, which is kind of surprising considering there's only 5 other teams who have never won a World Series but have got to one. So, really not good for the Seattle Mariners franchise long term. Let's talk about it right now. So, Seattle's first season was in 1977. They come into the league, and they weren't really the best team for a while. They never really had, any good run as a team, as a season. Their best win year was probably between 1984 and 1985 at 74 wins. That those 2 stints were probably their best runs. Yeah, they had their first 80-win season in 1991, their next 80-win season in 1993. Both of the times they don't make the playoffs. 1995, they make the playoffs and win their division, having 79 wins and 66 losses that season. They end up doing a pretty good job in the postseason. They're able to beat the Yankees in the ALDS 3-2, and then they lose to the Indians 4-2 in the ALCS, now Guardians, and the Indians I think went up losing that one as well. So not the best, kind of run. They have obviously really impressive to beat those Yankees, especially when they were really good back in the day. The next season they were in the playoffs was 1997, 90-win season, their first one in franchise history. Pretty good overall. They end up losing the ALDS to the Orioles 3-1, which is kind of unfortunate because he had Ken Griffey Jr. as MVP that season, so nothing really done there. So the next season they made was 2000. They end up in that wild card placement. They go in to beat the White Sox in the ALDS 3-0. Then they lose to the Yankees in the ALCS 4-2. So once again, only winning 2 games, kind of getting destroyed. The next season, 2001, they win 116 games, which is their most in franchise history and one of the most in MLB history, which is insane to think about. They go on to play the Indians 3-2. They end up taking that in the ALDS, and again in the ALCS, they lose to the Yankees 4-1. In that season, they had a really good, run. Obviously, that's when Ichiro was on the team. He had MVP and Rookie of the Year that season. And then over the next couple of seasons, they have 93 wins. Don't really get in the playoffs. They end up getting 2nd and 3rd in their divisions. And then they kind of frail out from that point. They have another 88-win season in 07. They don't make the playoffs. They have another 80-win season in 09 and don't make the playoffs. Another 80-win season in 2014 and don't make the playoffs. Another 80-win season in 2016, don't make the playoffs. And almost a 90-win season in 2018 and don't make the playoffs. So we look at the last couple of stretches of this roster. Obviously, the COVID year wasn't the best. 27 and 33 didn't make it. Kind of had to be around 500 to make the playoffs that season. So they're only 3 games short. 2021, they go 90 and 72, don't make a playoff spot, which is kind of surprising considering the next year they go 90 and 72 and make a playoff spot. And in that 2022 season last year, they obviously beat the Blue Jays in the AL wildcard 2-0 with the crazy comebacks. And they honestly look like a really good squad. And, they look like they had a shot to win it. And then the Astros series, I think, was the closest 3-0 I've ever seen in Major League Baseball, at least when I'm watching, because they was one-run games, tied games. So it was a really close series, which kind of sucks. But, You know, it's just unfortunate that this team has never really had a really good run so far and never have gotten to a World Series. So you look at their ALCS runs, obviously losing to the Indians 4-2, then they lost twice to the Yankees in the ALCS, you know, 4-2 and 4-1. So they've only gotten the ALCS 3 times. So, you know, just really not a lot of playoff winning from the Seattle Mariners. And as I'm recording this video in the 2023 season, they are 42 and 42 at the 500 mark. So it is possible for them to go another 90 game, you know, winning season. But there's a lot of good teams in the AL this season. So we'll see if they're able to get that done, maybe get back into the playoffs. But they have a lot of talent on this roster. They could add at the deadline too. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Seattle team does over the rest of the season into the playoffs. Throughout the seasons, they've only won 3 division titles and made the wild card twice. So there hasn't really been a lot of success with this Seattle Mariners franchise. Could be wrong about this, but I think they've won the least in a Major League Baseball with division titles and, you know, wild card rounds and, you know, making the playoffs and all that stuff. Pretty sure they have the least amount of it in the league. But they are currently the most disappointing franchise, I think, in the league, just because they've never gone compared to all their teams who have won and have at least gone to a World Series. So not the best. And if we look at some of those other teams that haven't won a World Series yet, we have the San Diego Padres, who went to the World Series in 1984 and 1999, who lost. We have the Texas Rangers, who went to the playoffs in 2010 and 2011. We obviously have the Tampa Bay Rays, who went to the playoffs in 2008 and 2020. We obviously have the Milwaukee Brewers, who went to the playoffs in 1982, which lost. And then the last team is the Colorado Rockies, who went to the World Series in 2007 and lost. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it, especially, you know, the Brewers had no success when they were the Seattle Pilots. Rangers franchise had no success when they were the Washington Senators. They've had a short history compared to the rest of the league, I think. And I think it's only a matter of time before they actually end up in a World Series. Because you look at some of these other teams that have been around for hundreds of years since the league started. I think they've got a good chance to, you know, make a World Series at least in the next 10 years, especially with the roster they have now and kind of what they're building, especially with that Julio Rodriguez contract, which I think is one of their better ones that they have had. He obviously won that Rookie of the Year last year, and he's been playing okay this season. I don't think he's been playing up to that Rookie of the Year level yet, or the MVP level yet, but I think he's definitely going to get there. And the thing that sucks for the Seattle Mariners, since they've been in the league in 1977, we've had other expansion teams come on in and win, you know, so it's kind of unfortunate to see that, especially from a team like this. I mean, I think a perfect example is the Diamondbacks when they came in the league. It took them like, I think, 2 or 3 years to get there, and they ended up winning that 2001 season. And I think you got to look at the Florida Marlins. You know, they obviously won in 1997 and then 2003 and came in the league, you know, just before those championships. So I feel like you got to look at teams like that have kind of come in and won. And so far, that hasn't really been the case with the Seattle Mariners. We'll see what happens next. I think my prediction for this season is I think if they add at the deadline, they can definitely make a playoff run. Just because the talent they have is really solid. And I think they're going to have to jump a couple teams, but if they make some good moves, I think it's definitely possible. And it's just like the what ifs. I think last year, you know, I think they had a really good shot to win. You know, if a couple things go their way in that Astros series, I think they could definitely been to the next round, which I think is unfortunate when you think about it, because you look at their playoff series and if same thing, you know, if a couple things goes right for them in a couple different games, I mean, they definitely could have won against the Yankees or the Indians. But what are your guys' thoughts on the Seattle Mariners franchise? Haven't been in a World Series yet, has a competitive team right now. What is your thoughts about this team going forward? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.